Hello everyone, and welcome to this second video for the Copan Dying City Kickstarter campaign. My name is Georgina, and today I am here on my own to talk to you about how the campaign is going and what we have planned for you. Jamie is very sorry he couldn't be sitting here with me, but that's fine, we're going to have fun, just us. So let's start by talking about how the campaign is going. We have reached our funding goal and we are very, very happy. Thank you all so much for taking part so far. We have also had a few comments from some of you basically asking about what makes Copan Dying City worth buying on Kickstarter now instead of just waiting for it to come to retail. And that is going to be the sort of meat and potatoes of what I'm going to be talking to you about in this video, as I thought it would be nice to cover all of the exclusive content that you're going to be getting as part of the campaign. So obviously, the base pledge of Copan Dying City, so the Obsidian pledge, is essentially the retail version of the game. It is already a pretty fantastic game. The components are amazing quality. You're already going to be getting something that's really amazing to play. What makes it pretty worth getting now instead of waiting for retail is that obviously the price from us is going to be lower. Even when you take shipping into account, you're most probably going to be paying a little bit less for it if you get it now. Unless you don't, instead rather of just waiting for the retail release. If you, however, have gone for the Jade level pledge, then that is a whole different story. So if you have taken the Jade level pledge, you are going to be getting a ton of exclusive content. And when I say exclusive, what I mean by that is content that will not be available in retail after this campaign. It will only be available in very limited quantities from us, Holy Grail Games, on our web store. And of course, the prices will be quite a bit higher than they are on the campaign right now. So, as we mentioned in our update earlier this week, we have decided to listen to a lot of you who have been asking for a little bit more. You've been asking for some additional exclusive content, something to make the campaign a little bit more exciting. As we mentioned in our update, stretch goals aren't something that we usually do. We basically stopped doing them a little while ago as part of our campaigns because we just decided that we wanted to offer you the best possible game right from the beginning and not kind of hold anyone hostage in terms of the amount of money that the campaign was making. And we also wanted to make it very, very clear from the start of the campaign exactly what you would be getting in the box. This time around, we've decided that obviously you guys do want a little bit more from us, and we are more than happy to do that. And so we've kind of found a compromise in the sense that the core game of Copan Dying City is going to be staying exactly as it is, more or less, be getting into that. However, the Jade Pledge is going to be getting a little bit of VIP treatment, and we are going to be adding more and more things to it during the campaign. If you have looked at the campaign page today, you will have noticed that we have added some stretch goals. So we have got lots of really cool stuff lined up for you Jade pledges out there. Things like individual storage boxes for all of your little components, which will help with keeping everything nice and tidy in the box and also just look really cool on the table while you play. We've also got card holders, so material upgrades like that. However, we also do have some mechanical upgrades. So we've got the Omen cards. The Omen cards are basically kind of like variants, I suppose. So this is something that we did for our previous Kickstarter campaign, Encyclopedia, and people responded really well to it. So we've decided to do it for this one as well. Essentially, Omen cards are going to be little variants to game rules that just kind of change the way the game feels a little bit as you play it. None of the changes will be drastic, but it will be just small things like a lot of you were talking about how you enjoyed the bumping mechanic. Well, we'll be making a variant for the bumping mechanic to make it so that it systematically happens no matter how many players there are currently on the board. When you enter a space, everyone gets pushed. So for those of you who enjoy that, that's good news for you. So some of the upgrades that we're proposing are also component upgrades, like spot varnish on the central board, and there's a few other cool things like that we're going to be doing. We didn't want to completely leave out the people who just took the Obsidian pledge. Obviously, if you have just taken the core pledge, we're also very grateful for you, for helping us, supporting this campaign and helping us to make Copan Dying City a reality. So you will also be getting most of those component upgrades as well. They will be included in your box too. So we have, I think, about 6 or 7 stretch goals going now. Obviously, we'll see how the campaign progresses. We have some more in mind if the campaign gets far enough. So yeah, we'll be happy to add those for you guys. Let us know what you think in the comments if you happen to really enjoy the way that the stretch goals are going. Maybe if you have any suggestions, we would love to hear from you. So let us know how we're doing. We cannot talk about the exclusive components and content in the Copan Dying City Kickstarter campaign without talking about the Lost Valley expansion. So the Lost Valley expansion, I actually have a prototype of here. So this is the storybook included in the expansion. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it, and then to really show you guys how it works, I'm actually going to play, I'm going to read you through one of the story arcs in the storybook for the Lost Valley. So spoilers beware if this is the kind of thing that you guys don't like. I will warn you before I begin, but let's start by just explaining what the Lost Valley is all about. So this is a really unique expansion, and I think that it's probably one of the most interesting we've ever done here at Holy Grail Games, because it brings something very unexpected to Copan Dying City. Obviously, we're dealing with a crunchy Euro worker placement game, the kind of thing that is really going to have you calculating everything that you do. The Lost Valley is really going to bring some narration into it. So we've got a bit of storytelling. You've got this storybook, and you are going to be reading through it as you play and deciding the fate of Copan. So you'll have choices to make. These different stories obviously branch out. I think there are 40 different occurrences in this book and 17 possible endings. Each decision that you make as you play is going to lead you to a different situation, and obviously leading you all the way up to the imminent demise of Copan, which may happen in a more or less peaceful way, depending on how things go and the decisions that you make. So basically how it works is like this. Obviously there's a ton of components in this expansion. Here what you can see in front of me, not including these items here, is a small selection of the elements that are included in the expansion. So there are a lot of different tiles and cards here. And essentially what's going to be happening is you will begin play as normal. So your game begins as it usually would. However, when you play with the Lost Valley, you are going to be playing with special event cards, which are these cards here. So as you can see, they have certain events now have a coloured frame around them, and each of these event cards is paired with a story card. Every time you trigger an event in the normal way, so either through decline or through a central pyramid space, you are going to activate the event as normal, do all of the effects. If you happen to have triggered an event with the coloured symbol around it, you're going to add one of these story tokens to the story card associated with that event card. Once you reach the requisite number of tokens, so in this case it would be 2, then you are going to activate the story event on this that's associated to this event card. So you will open the storybook and you will read the page inside. Most of the time you are going to have some kind of choice to make with your fellow players as you read. So this is where the expansion gets really interesting and unique. Almost kind of like a choose your own adventure, choose your own decline style of play. You are going to have to decide amongst yourselves what kind of direction you want to push Copan's fate in. Are you going to go to war? Are you going to go and try and get more food? What kind of things are you going to do to slow the decline of the city? So the way this will tend to manifest itself as you go through, we have all of these selections of different tiles here. These are actually going to come onto the board, they're going to get turned over, and they're going to replace certain elements of the board. So you'll be able to place them over the top of the corresponding area of the central board, changing the way it is used and scored for the entire rest of the game. So that's where it can get really interesting. some parts, some areas of the board may become more worth it. Some of them will become catastrophically less worth it. So it can work in your favour or not, depending on how things have gone for you. I think probably the easiest thing to do here is just going to be to start playing. So I'm not actually going to play this through. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to read you through a one-story branch of the Lost Valley book. As I said, there are 40 different incidences and there's 17 different endings. There's not going to be a massive spoiler for anyone. However, obviously, if this is not something that you want to hear, feel free to stop watching the video now, skip forward a little wee bit, and that way you won't have to listen to any of this. If you are interested and want to hear sort of exactly how this expansion is going to affect your gameplay, then here we go, stay tuned. So, as I was saying, the Lost Valley expansion is going to start you off with this book, and you are going to read your way through it as you play. There are 17 different endings, but the story is always going to start in the same way. The city is running out of food, and you have sent hunters out into the valleys around around the city, much further than you ever usually would have. And there, between a lake and the Great Sea, they have discovered an abandoned valley that was clearly once inhabited. So I've been playing Copan as I usually would. I have set off the requisite number of green events, so I've placed my 2 tokens here onto this card, and I have set off this page. So I've read that introduction to everyone at the table, and now we're going to have a choice to make. We have 2 choices. We can either decide to construct an encampment in this valley and attempt to start exploiting its resources. So perhaps we're going to cultivate the fruit trees that we found there to get more food and so on and so forth. Or the second option is going to be to just pillage it. So we get to search through all of the old buildings and just try and pillage the maximum amount of treasure that we can from this Lost Valley and take it back to the city of Copan. So everyone around the table has 1 vote. The player who triggered the story event and who is currently reading from the book has 2 votes. So in case of a tie, they're the ones who are going to be able to break it. Let's imagine in this case that we chose to pillage. So the book here tells me that I have to turn over to page 6 and I get to read what happens when we made choice B. So the book says you search through all of the remaining buildings and pillage everything that you can find, destroying a lot of things on your way. So this now has an effect on all players. Each player can decide to spend 2 resources of their choice to immediately gain 5 victory points. So that's pretty good. In a game like Copan, being able to get 5 victory points that easily is pretty great. I would be surprised if most players didn't decide to do that. However, if no player decides to make this choice, then the blue resource decline cube is going to move down by 1. So essentially, it's a little bit of an important choice. You either decide to do it or you don't. We're then going to draw a new event card. So the event card number 5 goes away and we now have a new event card. This is number 13 and it's going to have a new effect. Now, as we continue to play Copan, we're going to have 2 different colours of events that can occur. There's going to be green and there's also going to be red. Here in the centre of the card, it asks for 5 story tokens, so we're going to place those there. As each type of event occurs, we'll place a token on each side from the reserve. If it's a red, obviously we place on the red side, green on the green side. As soon as one side has a majority, then the next event is going to be set off, and we turn to a new page. Before we do that, however, this particular choice has one more effect on the overall game. So here it's given me a little additional text to read. It basically says you return to Copan covered in glory and riches. You have lots of things to give to your people. And a number of offerings are made to the Godium Cax. And the basic landscape of Copan is going to be forever changed because of this increase of wealth. Your overall influence and power as a family has increased and a new tile is going to be added to the board. So here it tells me I have to take tile number 4, which is this tile, I'll put it here so you can get a good look. And essentially this tile is going to be placed over the pyramid steps of the power resource tracker. So I will take this tile and I will place it here onto the board. Obviously, if any priest meeples were on any specific steps, I can place them back where they were. But as you can see from the tile, essentially fragments of my jade mask are now worth a lot more points for the entire end of the game. If my priest meeple is all the way at the top of the stairs at the end, then I'm going to get 4 points per mask section that I have at the end of the game, which is quite enormous. I also lose slightly fewer points, however, if I didn't do my mask at all. It's only -1 instead of -2. So less damage for those who weren't planning on doing much with their mask anyway. So once I've done all that, I replace the event card as the game requests, and I place the requisite tile onto the board. Then I get to continue playing. So the cards basically say now I have to turn to page 15. So once the new event is set off, so either green or red, then I'm going to be able to activate the next event. Here, the next big event in the history of Copan is that we have essentially discovered a new village along one of the trading routes, which is called Kirigua, and we are going to have to make a choice about this village. So we have two choices. We can either decide to make this village a vassal village and have it pay taxes to us, and then that way it gives us better access to the different trading routes, and we will be able to earn riches more quickly. Or we can decide to attack the village and sacrifice all of its inhabitants in order to basically increase our piety and to be able to take everything that the village has for ourselves. So this is going to be the second big choice in the game that the players are going to have to make. Let's say we decided to be a little bit kind about it and we went for choice A. So just to make them a vassal village instead of, murdering everyone. So if we make them a vassal village, then they are going to bring us a certain amount of things. So the entry in the storybook here tells us that essentially the relationship goes very well, and the amount of riches coming into Copan is increased. So players can choose to spend just one resource to take a character card for free from the Sacred Ball Court. So it goes by order of turn. You can only take a maximum of one character. If no player decides to spend a resource to do this, then the fame resource tracker, so the red decline track, will move down by 1. After that, again, we're going to be drawing a new event card as before, so we move on to the next one. So this time it's going to be 15. And we get a new story entry, so it essentially says trade is now flourishing in Copan. We have a lot of new materials coming in, a lot of obsidian and jade. The city of Copan is growing more and more and is now able to rivalize with cities like Bonampak and Calakmul. So we have decided to erect a new temple close to the forest. I now get to take tile number 12 and add it to the board, so the board is going to be modified yet again. This time it's going to entirely change how the cities work. So this tile is going to be placed over the top of the scoring grid for the embassies. Basically, as you can see, these cities are now going to cost me a lot less if I decide not to do them at all. It's only -5. Maximum points is still 40, but I'm going to basically just get up in the points a lot more quickly than I usually would. So the cities immediately become even more interesting than they were before. So this kind of reflects the story of Copan. We've become bigger and bigger and are now able to rivalize with other cities. So I now have my new cards in place, and we're basically going to be moving to sort of the final stage now of Copan's history. So it's going to be page 18. Once this event is set off, so obviously as we can see, every time we draw a new event card, there's going to be more and more different things happening. Each time the events are triggered, they're going to be doing different things for us. Sometimes there will be a lot worse, sometimes there will be a lot better. So really it's entirely up to you to choose what kind of result you're looking for. Let me move my tokens off here. So once you set off card 15, well, basically what's going to happen is you're going to turn to the page in the book and you're going to read it, and essentially Kirigua is not very happy about being a vassal village anymore and has decided to rebel. So you and the players are now going to have to make a very important choice, and it's not a great one. You are basically going to have to sacrifice resources. So depending on the number of players, it's either going to be 6 resources, 10, 14 or 18, so it's very expensive, and you're going to have to raise an army to essentially combat the one that is being sent against you by Kirigua. Players can choose to use one of their character cards, essentially sacrifice one of their character cards, to increase the value of their army. So you're essentially sending out one of your own followers to participate in the battle, to increase the resource value of this expedition by 1 each time. You can do that several times. Obviously, it's very expensive to do. Depending on the choice that you make, so if players decide, yes, we're going to pull together our resources to fight this common threat, great, you are going to get a positive-ish ending. If you don't, then obviously Copan is going to be defeated by this insurrection, and something not so good is going to happen. Just for funsies, let's read the bad ending for this particular story. So we did not get enough resources to raise an army against the insurrection, and we now have a dark future. So essentially, Copan suffers a humiliating defeat. We are entirely massacred by the invading population, and now we are on the edge of disaster. So we're going to draw a new event card. So this time it's going to be event card number 11. And as you can see, it's not a great card, and the rest of the game is going to be very, very punishing. Essentially, we have to climb trackers that are going to move down by 2 instead of just 1, and lots and lots and lots of resource loss. So every time there's an event from now until the rest of the game, it's going to hurt a lot. And the final thing that we're going to do is it asks that I place tile number 13 onto the central board. So this tile is basically going to entirely transform the Sacred Ball Court, and the way it is scored, it massively reduces the number of points that that area is going to be worth at the end of the game. Bad news for you if you spent the entire game working on it. Great news for you if you were kind of ignoring it and just hoping that the other players weren't going to get too many points. So there you are. That goes over the top there and changes how the game is scored. So there you have it. That was a story arc from the Lost Valley Book of Copan. Obviously, we didn't do an entire playthrough of this, but I think it's really interesting to see how the game kind of really modifies the landscape of the central board. It really does change the play conditions. So obviously, the event cards will be changing every time you read from the book. There'll be new tiles appearing onto the board. Sometimes the choices that you have to make in the Lost Valley are just making a kind of decision about where the story of Copan is going to go. But sometimes you actually have to give things, make sacrifices, common sacrifices for the common good, which, you know, players may want to do, may not want to do, may not be able to do. Sometimes the cost is so high that it's just not possible. But, you know, that's how it goes, and I feel that it really adds something super unique and interesting to this pretty heavy, crunchy Euro. I hope that you guys enjoyed that. I'm really looking forward to playing this one again in any case. If this is something that you would really love to see in a video, let us know, and we will do our best to play through this scenario so that we don't spoil any more of it for you for the rest of the campaign. Hope probably after the campaign at this point. Please do let us know what you think of these stretch goals. We will be back very soon with another video about solo mode, because I know that a lot of you are interested about that. So I will be sitting down with the author of the game, and we will be running you through the rules of solo mode. Thank you very much, everyone. If you managed to get all the way through to the end, I really appreciate it. As I said, we will be in the comments answering your questions. Thank you so much again for supporting Copan Dying City, and we will see you again next week, and possibly before then, for another exciting video. Thanks very much, everyone.